Hare Krishna. Yes. Right. Now, 1 minute. One point 6.19. Oh, okay, let's resume. Okay, but good touching. This is text 6.1. Okay. Shri Parikshit Vacha. उत्थाय तत् पदौ निधायांके समालिंग्य तस्याभिप्रेत्य हृद्गतम् हृत् प्राप्त भगवत तत्व प्रसाद भरभाग जनः तदीय प्रेम संपत्ति विभव स्मृति यंत्रितः. रोदनैर विवशोदीनो यत्नाधैर्यं श्रितो मुनिम अवधाप्याहमात्सर्यात् सात्विकात् प्रमुदं गतः. Shri Parikshit said, impelled by great respect for Narada, Uddhava suddenly stood up, held Narada's feet and embraced them. Aware of what Narada was thinking, Uddhava remembered many devotees who had received the Lord's special favor. As Uddhava meditated on those devotees, their love for the Lord and the wealth of their loving ecstasies, he felt distressed, thinking himself fallen, and cried helplessly. Only with some effort was he able to regain his composure. Then he became joyful and spoke to the sage, moved by the sattvic emotion of jealousy. Uddhava knew that Narada was thinking about how to find the best recipient of the Supreme Lord's favor. He intelligently deduced this from the way Narada was acting. This logical conclusion led Uddhava to remember many famous Vaishnavas of the past who had enjoyed the Lord's favor. The ecstasies of pure Vaishnavas, which appear on their bodies as perspiration, trembling, horripilation, and so on, are the priceless treasure of those Vaishnavas, a treasure whose value can be estimated only by Vaishnavas following in their footsteps. As Uddhava meditated on the great fortune of Krishna's devotees, he felt undeserving. He experienced the essential devotional prerequisite of dainya, utter humility. For Uddhava to regain his composure required great effort, plus the help of Narada, Balram, and the others. Uddhava was next confronted by the bhava of jealousy, intolerance of others' good fortune. This transcendental jealousy, however, was sattvika, born from pure goodness, untouched by the influence of passion and ignorance. Therefore, it was a cause of joy, having no trace of hatred. This ecstatic jealousy gave no distress to Uddhava or anyone else. Rather, in his jealousy, he entered even deeper into the trance of his attraction to Krishna, just as devotees in the conjugal mood become even more blissfully attached to Krishna when jealous of his other lovers. All of that is derived from Sri Sanatana Goswami. Srimad Uddhava Vacha Sarvagya Satyavak Shrestha Mahamunivara Prabho Bhagavad Bhakti Margadi Gurunoktam Tvayeha Yat Tat Sarvam Madhikam Chasmat Satyameva Mayisputam Vartete Maya Gyatam Asidanyayrapi Dhruvam. Sriman Uddhava said, O mighty one, knower of everything, most truthful speaker, greatest of sages, you are the master who teaches the means and the end of bhakti, devotional service to the Supreme Lord. All you just said about me and more is self-evident to me. I knew it was true before you said it, and so did others. O knower of everything, hence, that Narada is aware of who indeed are Krishna's most favorite devotees, led by the divine Srimati Radharani. In Uddhava's judgment, Narada is the best of eloquent speakers like Yudhishthir and the best of eminent sages like Vyasadeva. Of all who attempt to glorify the Supreme Lord and his devotees, Narada is the most competent. Uddhava therefore feels obliged to accept anything Narada says as true, even something awkward to hear like praise of him. Uddhava acknowledges Narada as his Prabhu or spiritual master. Idanim yad vraje gatva kimapyanvabhavam tataha mahasaubhagyamano me sasadyas churnatam gataha. What I saw on my recent trip to Vraja took my pride in my special good fortune and suddenly crushed it to dust. Uddhava cannot easily describe his impressions of Vraja. That's what he simply says, what I experienced. Yat kimapi anvabhava. Before he visited Vraja, his pride in being favored by Krishna had been as great as Mount Meru. But when he saw the greater devotion of the Vrajavasis, his pride was quickly reduced to a pile of dust. Tata eva hi Krishnasya tat prasadasya chadbhuta tat premno pim maya gyata madhuri tat patam tatha. Since then, I have understood the amazing sweetness of Krishna's mercy, of love for him, and of those who possess that love. Tad darshane naiva gato ti dhanyatam tarhyeva samyak prabhunanukampitam tasya prasadati shayaspadam tatha matva swamanandam haraplato bhavam. Just by what I saw in Vraja, I came to be most blessed. I was swept away in an ocean of ecstasy, thinking myself completely favored by the Lord, a recipient of his most extreme mercy. Kayam Gayam Yat Abhilashata Yat Tonutishtitam Yat Tat Sarvesham Suviditam Itah Shakyate Nyanna Vaktum Natva Natva Munivaramaya Prarthyase Kakubhistvam Tat Vritta Shravana Rasatah Samshraye Tha Viramam. Everyone here knows very well what I then sang in my ecstasy, what desires I had, and what I did. Better for now not to speak on those matters further. O best of sages, I bow down to you again and again, and I beseech you, please curb your eagerness to relish those various affairs. Uddhava's songs of ecstasy in Braja are recorded by Sri Shukadeva Goswami in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Etah param tanubhrito bhubi gopabadho govinda eva nikhilatmani ruha bhava vanchanti yad bhavabhiyo munayo vayamcha kim brahma janmabhir ananta katha rasasya. Among all persons on earth, these cowherd women alone have actually perfected their embodied lives, for they have achieved the perfection of unalloyed love for Lord Govinda. Their pure love is anchored after by those who fear material existence, by great sages, and by ourselves as well. For one who has tasted the narrations of the infinite Lord, what is the use of taking birth as a high-class Brahmana, or even as Lord Brahma himself? Asamaho charana renu jushamaham syam vrindavane kimapi gulmallataushadhi nam yadustyajam swajanam arya patham chikitva bhejur mukunda padavim shutibhir vimrigyam. The gopis of Vrindavan have given up the association of their husbands, sons, and other family members who are very difficult to give up, and have forsaken the path of chastity to take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda Krishna, which one should search for by Vedic knowledge. Oh, let me be fortunate enough to be one of the bushes, creepers, or herbs in Vrindavan, because the gopis trample them and bless them with the dust of their lotus feet. Therefore, anyone familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam knows very well what Uddhava said and did in Braja, and what confidential ambition he revealed there. It is no secret that Uddhava discovered in Sri Brajadham that the gopis headed by Sri Radhika are much more intimately favored by Krishna than himself. But in the present company, Uddhava wanted to avoid pursuing these topics. Sri Satyabhama and other queens of Dwaraka who were there might be displeased to hear the gopis' super excellence described. And Sri Krishna himself, being reminded of the gopis, might be driven into even worse distress. Satyabhamadinam sapatnya bhayat gopinam mahatmya kathane satyabhamaya dukkham syad ityartha. If he were to speak about the gopis' glory, Satyabhama and others would become frightened out of their rivalry for Krishna's conjugal affection, and Satyabhama would become distressed. Narada, however, having come to Dwaraka just to hear about the recipients of Krishna's greatest mercy, was intent on fulfilling his mission. Uddhava thus submitted to him a humble request that he bring his earnestness under control to avoid undesirable consequences. Rohini blames Krishna for the condition of Braja. She Parikshito Vacha. Tad Vakya Tattvam Vigyaya Rohini Sasrama Bravi Chira Gokula Vasena Tatratya Janasammata. She Parikshit said, And because Rohini had long lived in Gokula, its residents held her in high regard. She knew the inner meaning of Uddhava's words. So with tears in her eyes, she decided to speak. Despite the precautions taken by Uddhava, there was no way to stop Krishna's intimate devotees from unintentionally turning their conversation toward the pure devotion of Vraja. This is pointed out in this verse. That the people of Sri Nanda Vraja had exclusive possession of Krishna's mercy was an essential truth, too irresistibly attractive to be kept covered. Shri Rohini Vacha. Astan Shri Haridasatvam Mahadurdaiva Marita Saubhagya Gandha Rahitan Nimagnan Dainya Sagare Tat Bhadava Vakni Archis Tapyamanan Vishakulan Chana Chinta Sukhinya Me Masmrute Padavim Naya. Shri Rohini said, alas, dear servant of Sri Hari, the residents of Vraja have by evil fate been all but slain. They have lost the last trace of good fortune and are drowning in an ocean of gloom. There they suffer, poisoned and scorched in the flames of an underwater fire. So please do not destroy my moment of happiness by reminding me of them. Only a person who is dear to Sri Krishna and has received his favor should be considered fortunate. The Vrajavasis feel most unfortunate because they view themselves as totally neglected by Krishna. The pain of being deprived of Krishna's attention and personal company is like the inextinguishable Vadava fire, which is said to burn within the ocean. Absence from Krishna brings the Vrajavasis' love for him to a fever pitch, which feels to them like the agony of being poisoned. Living in Dwaraka, Rohini has been able to forget to some extent the misery of the Vrajavasis, but now Uddhava is stirring her memories. When Uddhava mentioned the songs of ecstasy he sang in Vraja, he was alluding in particular to the suffering of the gopis. But since Rohini is affectionate towards all the Vrajavasis, here she has used the generic masculine pronoun tan, them. In the next two verses, she will express her special concern for Mother Yashoda. Aham Shri Vasudevena Samanita Tato Yada Yashodaya Mahartaya Stadanin Tanarodanai Gravopi Rodityashaner Apyantar Dalatit Dhruvam Jivan Mritana Manyasam Vartam Kopi Mukham Nayet. When Shri Vasudeva brought me back from Gokula, the cries of the greatly distraught Yashoda made even stones shed tears and lightning bolts shatter. And who can let the mouth speak about the other women of Vraja, who after Krishna left became like living corpses? Rohini left Vraja just as the residents were being cast adrift in an ocean of separation. Yashoda suffered pitifully, but the young gopis who had known Krishna's intimate love suffered even more. Athagatam Gurugrihat Tvatprabhum Pratikinchana Sankshepenaiva Tadvrittam Dukkhada Kathayam Kuddhi. But I am not very intelligent. After your Lord returned from the house of his spiritual master, my sadness drove me to tell him briefly how the Vrajavasis were faring. When Rohini arrived in Mathura, Krishna was away studying with Balram at the ashram of Sandipani Muni. But after some days, the two brothers returned. Rohini was distraught about the plight of the Vrajavasis, who would not likely survive without Krishna. Therefore, she decided to inform Krishna about their condition, even at the risk of discomposing him. She tried to tell him only enough to make him want to visit Vraja to console his devotees, but not tell him so much that his own mental stability would be threatened. Rohini, however, seems not to have acted with the best of intelligence. Revealing one's mind generally relieves anxiety, but one should take care to reveal one's mind under favorable circumstances to avoid disturbing others. Thus, Rohini can say in retrospect that it was unwise for her to have risked exposing Krishna to the torment of Viraha Bhava. So these are her thoughts. Nahi komalitam chittam tenapyasya yato bhavan sandesha chaturi vidya pragalbha preshitah param. This, though, did not soften his heart, since all he did in response was send you, an expert in the clever art of delivering messages. Much to Rohini's surprise, Krishna did not respond with deep concern. And when Uddhava delivered Krishna's message to the Brajavasis, they did not recover from their devastation. On the contrary, they showed even more extreme symptoms of distress. Ayameva hi kimteshu tvatra bho paramo mahan anugraha prasado yas tatparyenochate tvaya. Is this your Lord's greatest favor and mercy on them, as your words imply? Mama pratyakshamevedam yada krishno vraje vrajat tato hi putanadibhyah keshyantebhyo muhurmuhu daityebhyo varunendradidevebhyo jagaraditaha tatha chirantanasviya shakatarjuna bhangataha ovanopadravastatra jato vrajavinashakaha tatra tyastu janah kinchit tenu sandadhate natat. My own experience is this. When Krishna lived in Vraja, so many calamities threatened to destroy it. Vraja was disturbed by demons, from Putana to Keshi, by demons like Varuna and Indra, by creatures like the python, and by the falling of familiar things at Krishna's house like the cart and the Arjuna trees. But to these dangers, the residents paid no regard. The residents of Vraja were simply happy to have Krishna in their midst. They did not care what dangers befell them due to Kamsa seeing Krishna as an enemy to be destroyed. To kill Krishna and ruin Krishna's homeland, Kamsa sent many demons, those mentioned in this verse, and others like Kaliya, the serpent, who on Kamsa's order polluted the Yamuna with deadly poison. Besides the friends of Kamsa, Krishna had yet other adversaries, including powerful rulers of heaven. Nonetheless, the Vrajavasis constantly thought only about how to keep Krishna happy. They never considered protecting themselves from the attacks of demigods or demons. तथापि प्रजजनानां कृष्णे प्रीतिर न जातु क्षीणा अपितु विवृद्धा एव. Even then, their love for Krishna only increased. It did not decrease. They never thought, aho bata अस्माकं दुःखम उपस्थितम अस्य प्रतिकुर्मः इत्यादिकं किंचिदपि न अनुसंधते न विचारयन्ति. They never thought that we are getting so much of trouble because of this Krishna, so let us go away from him. They would never think like this. Mohita iva Krishnasya mangalam tatra tatra hi ichanti sarvada swiyam napekshante chakarhichit. As if entranced in each event, they wanted only to assure Krishna's welfare. They never thought about themselves. Atra hetumaha mohita. So this verse explains the reason why the Vrajavasis behave like that. It was Krishna who entranced the residents of Vraja. Acting through his Yogamaya potency, he diverted them from paying attention to their own safety. At the same time, he completely protected them. And here, Sanatana Goswami has remarked, Mojita Iva, as if in a trance, as if entranced. Krishnena apakrita vivekaha iva iti tattvataha moha sambhava. They seemed to be, their discrimination seems to have been stolen by Krishna. Seems to. Because actually, it is impossible for them to become deluded. Yadva, another meaning is, Indra Jalika Adibhihi Moham Prapita Itare Janaha Yatha. Just as others are led to delusion by means of magical tricks, like that they were entranced. Vaishnavas are supposed to cultivate the understanding that Krishna will protect them from all dangers. Rakshishyati iti Vishwasa. The Vrajavasis, however, manifested the perfection of this surrender spontaneously without having to practice it. This is from Gopi Brahman. But in the songbook known as Sharanagati by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that you will find a song where Bhaktivinoda Thakur reveals that the residents of Gokula, they have this feature. They have absolute faith that Krishna will protect them from all kinds of dangers, asuras, whatever, you name it. Swabhava saukhrude naiva yat kinchit sarvamatmanaha asyopakalpyante sma nandasuno sukhayatat. In natural fondness for the son of Nanda, they fully dedicated everything they owned to his pleasure. So-called love in the material world is always motivated by some selfish desire. But in Sri Vrindavan Dham, everyone loves Krishna without any motive. It may be said that unmotivated love of God is also found in Vaikuntha. But that love is restricted by the devotees' awareness of the supremacy of Lord Narayan. In Vrindavan, the residents see Krishna just as Nanda Maharaj's darling son, and not the Lord of all existence or even the hero of the Yadu dynasty. Seeing Krishna with this attitude allows the Vrajavasis to freely express their unconditional prema bhakti. Tatanim apinami sham kinchit pat prabhuna kritam idanim sadhita swartho yachakre yam kvachmitat phalitam vadanti upasamharati. Even then your Lord did nothing to help them. Who could bear to hear me say what he has been doing now to accomplish the goals of his other devotees? So now she concludes. The word swa may mean his own, indicating that the Lord's own goals are what he was busy fulfilling. But the word swa is, as used here, is best understood to mean his own devotees. After Krishna went to Mathura, he satisfied his devotees there by killing Kamsa, living with the Yadus for the rest of his life. For the Yadus, this was pleasing to hear about, but for the Vrajavasis and their sympathizers, it could be intolerable. Shri Parikshitavach. Tatchutva dushtakamsasya janani drishta cheshtita jara hata vichara sa sashirah kampam abravit. Shri Parikshit said, upon hearing this, the mother of the wicked Kamsa spoke out, her head shaking, her manner bold, her judgment spoiled by old age. Padmavati was not at all ashamed of being the mother of Krishna's great enemy, begotten by the demon Drumila. History records that when Krishna killed Kamsa, she lamented uncontrollably, even though all intelligent persons were pleased at her son's death. Shirah Kampascha Jarati Bhare. She shook her head was shaking because she was too old. She Rohin Yuktyakshepa Patavenava. And also because she had a sharp objection to what Sri Rukmini had stated. Padmavati Vacha Ahobata Chutastesham Gopanam Agripavatam Abalyat Khantakaranye Palayam Asa Goganan. Padmavati said, just see, since childhood, our Krishna has stayed in the forest full of thorns to guard the cows of those merciless cowherds. As the name Achyuta indicates, Krishna never fails to carry out his responsibilities even when they are troublesome. Adukena daduste smai kadachit shudha turaha gorasam bhakshayet kinchit ivam badhnanti tatsriyaha. They never even gave him shoes. And if when tormented by hunger, he sometimes ate a little stuff made from the milk, the cowherd woman punished him by tying him up. Akroshanti chitadukham kalagatyaiva kritsnashaha krishnena sodham madhuna kim kartavyam vataparam. And they scolded him abusively. Because he was young, Krishna had no choice but to tolerate all this pain. But what does he have to do for those people now? Angry at Krishna's stealing yogurt and butter, Mother Yashoda's neighbors would come to her and complain. Vatsan munchan vachita samaye krosha sanjata hasa steyam swadvatyatha dadhipaya kalpitaisteya yogai markan bhakshyan vibhajati sachen nati bhandam dhinakti dravyalabhe sagraha kupito yatyupakroshya tokan. Your son sometimes comes to our houses before the milking of the cows and releases the calves. And when the master of the house becomes angry, your son merely smiles. Sometimes he devises some process by which he steals palatable curd, butter, and milk, which he then eats and drinks. When the monkeys assemble, he divides it with them. And when the monkeys have their bellies so full, they won't take more, he breaks the pots. Sometimes if he gets no opportunity to steal butter or milk from a house, he will be angry at the householders. And for his revenge, he will agitate the small children by pinching them. Then when the children begin crying, Krishna will go away. Padmavati says that the abuse Krishna tolerated was heaped upon him because of Kalagati, the movement of time. This can mean that because he was only a child, she was hardly aware of the impropriety of what the cowherds were doing to him. And in any case, it was a situation he was powerless to change. Or else it can mean he was thinking that as long as he had to stay incognito in Vraja to hide from Kamsa, he would have to tolerate inconveniences. Shri Parikshita Vacha Pragya Gambhira Sampurna Rohini Vrajavallabha Tasya Vakyam Anadritya Prastutam Samshrunoti Tat. Shri Parikshit said, Rohini, the darling of Vraja, was fully endowed with the gravity of wisdom. Ignoring Padmavati's remarks, she went on speaking from where she had left off. Shri Rohini Vacha Rajadhanim Yadunamcha Prapta Shri Mathuram Ayam Hatari Vargo Vishranto Raja Rajeshwaro Bhavat. So when Padmavati spoke, Rohini continued to speak as if she never heard Padmavati speak anything. Shri Rohini said, then he went to Sri Mathura, the capital of the Yadus. He killed many enemies, relaxed for a while, and became king of the rulers of kings. Nano atratyan nijagyati vargasya avashishtam artham samadhaya. Adya shvova tatra agamishya titi chet tatra harajeti dvapya. And if someone were to say, okay, he went because he had some other things to do for the sake of his relatives who were residing in Mathura. And after completing that, he will definitely come today or tomorrow. So, if you were to hope like that, Rohini Devi says, no, such a hope is not sustainable. She explains that in 2 verses. In 47 and 49. Vishranta, having rested, alludes to Krishna's resting at Vishram Ghat on the shore of the Yamuna after the labor of killing the restless animals. In the previous age, Krishna's incarnation, Lord Varaha rested at the same spot after killing Hiranyaksha. Also implied by the word Vishranta is Krishna's dwelling peacefully in the city of Dwaraka, which he built for himself. The Brajavasis had little reason to hope he might return to them soon, for he had now become an established
సంపాదనలు పడ్డారు తప్ప ఆవులు చూసుకోవాలి అట్లా లేదు అక్కడ ఉంటే ఇప్పుడు గడ్డి కోసుకోవాలి
దేవతా బృందవందిత అహో స్మరతి చిత్తేపి నతేషాం భవదీశ్వరః. Now honored by countless demigods whom he has sometimes defeated and sometimes helped, this Lord of yours no longer even thinks about the residents of Braja. Krishna humiliated Indra by stealing the Parijata tree from heaven, and he aided the demigods by killing their various opponents like Narakasura. Thus, all the demigods, whether they had pure love for him or not, had to acknowledge his superior position. Being lavished with so much honor, Krishna, according to Mother Rohini, could hardly remember his former life in simple Vrindavan. Rukmini defends Krishna. Parikshitu Vakya. Tadvacho sahamanaha Devi Krishnasya Vallabha Sadakritan Nivasasya Hridaye Bhishmanandini. Shri Parikshit said, Krishna's dear queen Rukmini, Bhishmaka's daughter, who always lived in Krishna's heart, found these words unbearable, and so she spoke up. Because Srimati Rukmini lived always in Krishna's heart, and literally on his chest, in her expansion is the goddess Lakshmi in Vaikuntha. She perfectly knew every thought and feeling that passed through his heart. Whatever she said, therefore, carried the highest degree of authority. Shri Rukmini Vakya. O matar navanitati mrudutsvantasya tasya hi avigyayantaram kinchit katham evam tvayochyate yuyam shrunata vrittani tarhit shrutani me. Shri Rukmini said, my dear mother, you don't understand the inner feelings of Krishna at all. His heart is softer than newly churned butter. Why are you saying these things? Just hear from me what I have heard. Even if Rohini did understand Krishna's true feelings, she was not revealing what she knew. Kimapi drute ratro swapan nitin namabhe madhura madhuram pritya dhenu iva vayatik kvachit uta sakhi ganan kamshchit gopan ivatham manoharam sam abhinayate vamshi vaktram tribham parakritim. Sometimes at night he says this and that in his sleep. Sometimes in a most sweet voice he utters names as if calling his cows. Sometimes he calls his girlfriends or some of the cowherd boys. And sometimes while asleep, he acts as if he were placing his flute to his mouth and assumes his enchanting threefold bending form. Krishna displays the full extent of his beauty only in Brajabhumi. Elsewhere, he does not play the flute or stand in his most attractive pose, with his feet, hands, and head forming an enchanting curve. So in 4 verses, so in 4 verses, beginning with text 51, she elaborates on her earlier statement that you people don't understand what Krishna has in his mind. Swapanapi kimuta jagrat namabhi Ganga Yamuna Dhvala Kalindi Ityadi Dhenu Sangyabhi. So sometimes he calls out the names of cows, Ganga, Yamuna, Dhavala, Kalindi, and so on. Kvachit kadachit asya paratraka. Kadachin matar me vitara navanitam pitivade kadachit Shri Radhe Lalita iti sambodhayati ma kadapidam chandravali kimiti me karshati patam kadapyasras astrasarai mritulayati tulim shayanata. While asleep, he sometimes says, Mother, give me some fresh butter. Sometimes he calls out to me, O Shri Radha, O Lalita. Sometimes he pulls on my garment and asks, Chandravali, what are you doing? And sometimes he drenches a pillow on his bed with floods of tears. Supnaduthaya sadyotha rodityartha swaraisthatha vayam yena nimajjamo dukkha shoka maharnave. Then at times he suddenly wakes up, rises from bed, and cries in a pitiful voice, drowning us in an ocean of pain and grief. Evam shokadvayena swapnikam charitam utva idanim jagaranikam swapnaditi dvabhyam. So in the previous 2 verses, she related his dreams. Now she talks about his activities during his wakeful state. Text 53 and 54. By us, Srimati Rukmini means all of Krishna's queens.
Shifting code late in
Rukmini's own unique love for Krishna is free from the jealousy usually found among poets. Adhyapi drishtva kimapi swapan nishi krandan shuchaso vimanas kataturaha tatvam murdhani supta vatstito nityani krityanyapi nacharat bata. Just last night, he must have seen something in a dream, because today he has been weeping sorrowfully and is beside himself with agitation. Now he is lying in bed as if asleep, his cloth pulled over his head. He has not even performed his morning duties. So it's not just something that happened way back. Even today it happened. Satyabhama confirms Krishna's anxiety. Parikshito Vacha. Sasapatni Ranash Sershyam Satyabhama Bhamini He Shri Rukmini Nitrayam Iti Kim Tvam Jalpasi. Then temperamental Satyabhama, surrounded by other wives, answered back in jealous anger. He said, Dear Shri Rukmini, why are you prattling on like this? Why talk only about what he does while asleep? Kimapi kurvan jagradapyatma chitte shayata eva vidhatte tadrisham cha vayamiha kila bharya namato vastutasyu pashupa yuvati dasyo pyasmadasya priyastah. Even while active and awake. He seems to have his mind on something else, as if dreaming. Indeed, we are his wives only in name. His young cowherd maidservants are in fact more dear to him than we are.
Teachings, వేరే యాక్టివిటీస్ సాధన.
As Satyabhama and other queens witnessed, even in the middle of the day, Krishna often acted as if his mind were in Vraja. He would call out to his cows, his friends, and his gopis, just as Rukmini testified he did in his sleep.
యాక్టివ్గా చేస్తున్నాం అనుకో, వీళ్ళేమైనా తీసేసుకుంటారు, ఉంటాయి కదా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్.
Balaram blames Krishna for
Krishna
not
Vidvan Prabhu.
returning to
Krishna.
Vraja.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Shri Parikshit Vacha, Ashaktattar Vachas Sodham, Gogula Pranabandhavaha, Rohini Nandana Shriman Baladevu Rushabravit. Shri Parikshit said, Blessed Baladev, the darling son of Rohini, an intimate friend of all Gopala, couldn't tolerate hearing these words. Angrily he spoke in reply.
Prabhuji, can you please mute all? There is some disturbance from somebody.
Lord Balaram, siding with his mother, was dissatisfied with the way the other queens had interpreted Krishna's behavior. Baladeva Vacha, Badhva Sahaja Tatratya, Danyavarta Katha Paran, Asman Mancha Yato Bhratu Idam Kapatapatavam. Shri Baladev said, Dear ladies, all this is nothing but my brother's clever deception. They are intent upon speaking about the misery of the residents of Vraja, misery all too real, and he's simply cheating us. Lord Baladev called the Vrajavasi's unhappiness Sahaja, natural or real. According to Lord Baladev, the devotees in Krishna's Dwaraka entourage had every reason to be concerned about the plight of their counterparts in Vraja. Krishna's apparent distress, however, should not be taken seriously because he obtains pleasure only from deceiving others and will therefore go to any extremes to create an illusion. He has put on a show of being distracted by memories of Vraja, just to please his Dwaraka devotees and to give them a taste of the ecstasy of separation even while present with them. Everything Krishna has said about the Vrajavasi's distress and separation from him has some basis in reality, but he manipulated the facts to create a false appearance that he feels similarly about the Vrajavasis. These are Lord Balram's thoughts while we were speaking this. Tatramasad vayam sthitva tesham swasthyam chikir shata tanna shaktam maya kartum vagbhiracharitairapi. Stayed there in Vraja for 2 months and tried to restore the Vrajavasis to normal, but nothing I said or did was of any avail. He points it out in 4 verses, beginning with text 59. While visiting Vraja, Lord Balram had tried to console the devotees by assuring them that Krishna was very much afflicted by separation from them, and that certainly in a few days he would finish killing all the enemies in Mathura and come back home. Balaram also did other things to relieve the Vrajavasi's distress. For example, he performed water sports in the Yamuna and constructed beautiful things in various places for Krishna to enjoy upon his return.
అది ఇష్టాల్లో ఒక ప్రాబ్లం ఉంది.
Ananyasatyam tadvikshya vividai shabatai shatai an yatnadishadashvasya varayatragatam balat. No other way to achieve my purpose. I made hundreds of promises to them, and with great effort finally consoled them to some extent. Then I managed to pull myself away and hurry back here.
This gives a power. The Putin president would be
Lord Balaram concluded that only Krishna's returning to Vraja would forestall disaster. Lord Balaram had done everything he could to convince the Vrajavasis that Krishna would soon be coming. He had told them that now he was going to Dwaraka to bring Krishna personally. But even after offering so many assurances, Balram had been obliged to pry himself away from Braja by force. No one had wanted to let him leave.
Number 9, room number 2. Maybe बाहर गए.
गदितं कृष्ण सकृत गोष्ठम कयापित गत्वा प्रसंग संगत्या रक्ष तत्रत्य जीवनम. I anxiously requested Krishna, please find some excuse to go to your cowherd village just once and save the lives of the people there. The cowherd community was made up of Krishna's own people, with whom he had enjoyed the pleasures of his childhood. Now that they were drowning in an ocean of misery, he surely ought to be willing to visit Vraja once to save them. Kantasmiti mukhe brute hridayam cha na tadrisham manasasya cha bhavasya bhave sakshit prayojanam. From his mouth, he says, certainly I shall go. But in his heart, he thought otherwise. Indeed, the truth about a person's mind can be known from how he acts. Speaking one way while acting in another way is proof that one intends to deceive. Shri Parikshitavasha. Idam makarnya bhagavan utthaya shayanadrutam priya prema pradhino rudannuchair bahirgataha. Shri Parikshit said, hearing this, the personality of Godhead, who is ruled by the love of those dear to him, suddenly got up from his bed and came outside, loudly weeping. Krishna appears and asks Uddhava's advice. Prafulla Padmanetrabhyam Varshanashruni Dharaya Sagadgadam Jagadedam Paranugrahakataraha. From his fully blossoming lotus eyes rained a flood of tears. With a choking voice, tormented by compassion for others, he spoke as follows: an inferior person cares only for his own welfare, whereas a virtuous person thinks about paranugraha, compassionate help for others. Krishna's paranugraha is unlimited. Paramanugraha, Paramakarunya. Taking the word para in the sense of enemies, we can understand that he is compassionate even to those who hate him. Pareshu dveshtrishu api anugrahena katara. Certainly, therefore, he would not neglect his devotees. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Satyameva mahavajra sarena ghatitam mama idam hridayam adhyapit vidhayanna vidhiryati. The Supreme Lord said, yes, it is true. My heart is made of solid diamond. It must be so because it is not yet split in half. Balyadarabhye tair yattat palanam vihitam chiram apyasadharanam prema sarvam tad vismrutam maya. Those devotees who took care of me for so long, from the very beginning of my childhood. And still I have forgotten all about their exceptional love. Astutavad dhitam tesham karyam kinchit kathanchana utatyantam kritam dukkam krurena mrudulatmanam. Be that as it may, I must somehow do something to help them. I've indeed been cruel to have caused those gentle souls such extreme grief. Bhratar Ruddhava Sarvagya Preshta Shrestha Vadadrutam Ravani Kimityasma Chokabder Mam Samudhara. Oh, brother Uddhava, you know everything, and you're the best of my dear friends. Please tell me at once what I should do. Please lift me from this ocean of distress. Evam Shokavego Dayat Kartavyam Ajana Nigo Uddhavam Prichyati. So now he asks Uddhava, as if he doesn't know what he's supposed to do because of the lamentation and frenzy that came about because of that lamentation. Asmat, Vrajanimittan. Tell me what I should do. I should get out of this distress caused by Vraja. Devaki and Padmavati advise Krishna. She Parikshitavacha. Nandapatni Priyasakhi. Devaki Putravatsala. Ahedam diyatam yad dishyate tai sukrit tamai. She Parikshit said Devaki was loving to her son and was a dear friend to Nanda's wife. She said, you should give your best well-wishers whatever they want. Mother Devaki anticipated that Uddhava's reply would likely inspire Krishna to leave for Gokula. So she interrupted before Uddhava could speak. She suggested to Krishna that he placate the Vrajavasis some other way than by returning. Tatah Padmavati Rajyat Danam Bhita Vimudhadhi Mahishi Yadurajasya Vriddha Mata Mahi Prabho Apyukta Shravanat Purvam Ramamatra Vahelita Swabhartu Rakshitam Rajyam Chaturyat Parihasavat Vyaharat Paripatyanya Chittata Padanenatam Yadu Vamshaika Sharanam Vidhatum Swasthama Bravi. Then, fearing that the kingdom was about to be given away, old Padmavati, the Lord's grandmother, the queen of the Yadu king Ugrasena, gathered her muddled wits and cleverly feigned a joking spirit. To protect her husband's domain, she spoke up again, even though Balram's mother had snubbed her by ignoring her previous remarks. Invoking eloquence, Padmavati tried to change the mood to bring Krishna, the exclusive shelter of the Yadu dynasty, back to normal. Devaki had said, give them whatever they want. Tena Devaki Vakyena Rajadanad Gita Padmavati Vriddha Parihasavad Pravid Tribhiranvaya. So Padmavati became frightened that maybe he would give the kingdom and they would ask for a kingdom. In her own way, Padmavati had good intentions. She saw that unless Krishna could be calmed down, the whole Yadu clan faced destruction. He might even offer to turn the rule of Dwaraka over to Nanda and the cowherds. To avoid such danger, Padmavati tried a humorous distraction. Nanu Mahashoka Samayesmin Tathoktirna Yujyate. This is a time of great lamentation. At this time, how could she crack a joke? With that in mind, text 72 has been spoken, which is this, invoking eloquence. Padmavati tried to change the mood. Tasya aswasthena sarve yadava nachyeyu. If Krishna is not in a good condition, the entire Yadava group would perish. It's not like that. Padmavati Vacha Payanu Tapyate Krishna Katham Mantritam Shruno Yad Ekadashabhir Varshair Nandagopasya Mandire Dvabhyam Yuvabhyam Bhratribhyam Upabhuktam Hi Vartate Tatra Dadyana Dadyadva Goraksha Jivanam Sate Sarvam Tad Garga Hastena Ganayatva Kananushaha Dviguni Kritya Mad Bhartra Tasmai Deyam Shape Swayam. Padmavati said, Krishna, why should you lament? Just listen to my advice. While living 11 years in the home of Nandagopa, you two brothers enjoyed various comforts. For that I swear my husband will repay Nanda twice over. My husband will see to it that Gargamuni calculates the amount to the smallest fraction and delivers it by his own hand. And if Nanda owes you payment for tending his cows, let him pay you or not as he wishes. For 11 years, Ugrasena's grandson Krishna lived and enjoyed in the house of Nanda Maharaj. Krishna might not take seriously Padmavati's idea to reimburse Nanda Maharaj and satisfy him with money. But even if Krishna becomes amused by it, her purpose of changing Krishna's mood will be achieved. She reminds Krishna that her husband Ugrasena is very generous and will not hesitate to pay twice whatever might be owed. And even if Nanda fails to remunerate Krishna and Balaram for their cow tending, that is a small concern. In settling the accounts, Nanda may not want to accept anything extra from Ugrasena, and that will be all the better. So there's no need to annoy Nanda Maharaj over the small amount for the salaries of Krishna and Balaram. Gargamuni is the best person to calculate the payment because he's an excellent astrologer, accustomed to making careful mathematical reckonings of configurations of planets. Moreover, though not saying so, Padmavati thinks that if the scrupulous Garga decides the amount to pay and delivers it himself, the cowherds will not get more than they deserve. Since Nanda is only a cowherd, he is not used to having much wealth other than his stock of milk products. The expenses for the two brothers should be repaid, but not those of Rohini and the maidservants who had stayed with her in Vraja, because she had insulted Padmavati by ignoring her previous comments. Padmavati is correct in figuring the duration of Krishna's stay as 11 years. Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this. Tato nandam vrajamita pitra kamsad vibhyata ekadasha samas tatra gudharshis sabalo vasat. Thereafter, fearing Kamsa, Krishna's father brought Krishna to the cowherd and to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda. There, Krishna lived for 11 years like a covered flame with his elder brother Baladev. This statement by Uddhava does not imply that after 11 years of living in Vraja incognito, Krishna and Balaram came out of hiding and continued living in Vraja for several years more. After all, when Akrura came to take the two brothers away from Gokula, he saw that they were in the Kaishora age. That is, they were young adolescents. Dadarshak Krishnam Ramam cha Vraje go dohanam gatau Pita Nilam Baradharav Sharad Ambu Ruhekshana Kishorav Shamala Shvetau Sriniketo Brihad Bhujau. He saw Krishna and Balaram in the village of Vraja going to milk the cows. Krishna wore yellow garments, Balaram blue, and their eyes resembled autumnal lotuses. The two shelters of the goddess of fortune were in the Kishore age, one of them with dark blue complexion and the other white. Again, when the two lords arrived in Mathura and entered Kamsa's arena to join the wrestling competition, the women of the city described them as adolescents. Va Vajra Sara Sarvangav Mallo Shailendra Sannibhav Kvachati Sukumarangau Kishorau Naptayovanam. The two professional wrestlers have limbs as strong as lightning bolts and bodies resembling mighty mountains. What comparison can there be between those wrestlers and these two young immature boys with exceedingly tender limbs? It is generally understood that the Kishora period of youth begins in one's 11th year. According to Vedic injunctions, Kshatriyas in particular are supposed to receive their sacred thread initiation in the 11th year. And so it was that Krishna and Balaram took initiation at that age, right after killing Kamsa. In the arena after Kamsa's death, Krishna told Sri Vasudeva and Devaki, Nasmattu yavayostatan nityotkanthitayorapi balya pauganda kaishorah putrabhyam abhavan vachat. Because of us, your two sons, you always remained in anxiety and could never enjoy your childhood, boyhood, or youth. Although Krishna and Balaram had just entered the Kishore age, the supreme heroic prowess they were showing in Mathura covered the natural charm of their youth. Thus, Vasudeva and Devaki were not able to experience the sweetness of the boys in their adolescence. In other words, although Krishna's beauty is described as that of a full-grown youth, this does not mean he had passed beyond the Kishora age. As an alternative explanation of Krishna's statement to his parents, we can accept that when Krishna and Balram came to Mathura, they were actually at the end of the Kishora age in their 15th year. The poetry of Shri Billurangal Thakur gives evidence that in some of the later pastimes before leaving Vrindavan, Krishna manifested symptoms of full-grown youth and even acted as an adult. A child may act like an adult by displaying some special strength or skill. The 15th year is especially attractive because at that age, the body reaches adulthood at its peak of youthful beauty. But because Krishna was supremely gentle by nature, his 15th year seemed like the beginning of his Kaishora period. And his period of depth for enjoying Nanda Maharaj's milk products is still calculated as only 11 years, since for the first 4 years, he was an infant sucking his mother's breast. In this way, we can reconcile the contradictions that seem to appear among various statements. Some saying that he was a new adolescent, and others a full-grown youth. Okay. Oops. Let me go to see this chat now. Okay. Any questions? Wait, I see a question here. What is the significance of Padmavati's dialogue amidst the talks of Rohini? It shows how people who are not in pure devotional service misunderstand, misperceive Krishna's interaction with his beloved devotees. Padmavati is so close and yet she has so many complicated misunderstandings. That's all. That's all I can figure out. All right. Okay. If there are further questions, bring it up. Otherwise, we'll close it. Ansha kalpatarubhyasya kripasamudbhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.